A housing crash is a 100% certainty, and I've got some new real estate lessons for you today. Yes, I've been known for saying that the housing crash is a certainty. It's been certain for years because it already occurred, a housing supply crash in 2020. It's a bigger deal than a price crash because people have nowhere to live at all and the homeless rate has soared. But we're going to go in a new direction today. We are now well up off of the bottom of America's frighteningly low housing supply. So let's go. Will the housing crash aftermath look any better? Because it's starting to take shape right now. It is going to be exceedingly hard to get up and bounce back from all of this. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold, Get Rich Education founder, Forbes Real Estate Council member, best-selling author, and longtime real estate investor. We're going to look at how bad it is with housing supply state by state with a map of all 50 states shortly, but let's get caught up to today. First, back 4 years ago in 2020, that's when available homes for sale dropped like an anvil on Wile E. Coyote's head. You can see that it has, though, doubled since then. So we're up off the bottom here in this housing supply crash aftermath phase. Now, let's be mindful, we are still today, though, despite some improvement, at less than half of the number of housing units that we need for a balanced market overall, which is about 1.5 to 2 million. Let's do something different. Usually housing scarcity is viewed nationally and by the number of units like we just looked at there. Let's crack things open in a more, novel way. Props to Altos and Housing Wire because we can actually learn completely new real estate lessons when we look at the months of unsold homes by state. This is the latest month ended. 6 months supply of unsold homes. That's deemed as a balanced market between buyers and sellers. The fewer the months, the lower the number, the more scarcity. All 50 states are below 6 months, meaning that though we are off the bottom here in the aftermath stage, housing demand still far exceeds supply. And yes, finding a suitable home for sale is about as rare as getting a reply from a cold email. And though some wouldn't think so, housing inventory actually has risen this year. Well, this scarcity generally leads to more upward prices and rents like we've seen. I'll get to the generally part in a moment. Most scarce are Ohio and parts of New England at just an incredibly paltry, meager 1 month supply level. Least scarce is Louisiana at 3.5 months. That state's seen some population loss. Now, I said generally earlier because it's interesting to explore some exceptions to fewer months equals scarcity equals upward price and rent pressure, and this is where the lessons really come in. The Northeast has the most meager supply, and in part, this is because it's experienced less home building than the Southeast and the Intermountain West. California is losing population. Texas is gaining, but yet oddly, California supply looks almost twice as scarce as Texas is. So what is going on here? How can this be? Well, many Californians won't sell their homes due to their ultra low and predictable property taxes. Yeah, California property taxes, they are generally limited to 1% of the purchase price. And then after purchasing a California home at that price, which is obviously a fixed price, the taxable value cannot be increased by more than 2% annually, despite market value increases, and this is what's known as Prop 13 in California. Proposition 13 mandates this. So if you bought a home in San Francisco for $250K in 1986 and it's worth $3.2 million now, well, your property taxes hardly budged. So homeowners want to stay, even age in place, as their California taxes are so cheap, keeping that supply then from coming onto the market. It's also hard to build in California, keeping their supply paltry. All right, well, what about Florida? A lot of people are still moving to high growth Florida, hence they have this high housing absorption rate, and they also have lots of new construction coming online. There's been tons of new building there, and that's why Florida has more months of supply than most states and more than you might expect. So the numbers here in months of supply, that is not a perfect supply-demand indicator by any means, and then there's always nuance behind these stats too. For example, as useful as this map is, it does not break out the housing scarcity by price range. Right now, Americans really want to buy homes for around $400K. Oh, and then of course there are intrastate dynamics. In my native home state of Pennsylvania, the Philly housing market differs from Pittsburgh. And we could break this down by county or smaller. There are a lot of different ways to parse things, but overall, as this map shows us, in many states we can see that adequate housing, that's going to stay more rare than a quiet day in kindergarten in most places, and it's likely that you will see ever higher prices and more homelessness because of it. Now, we do have more inventory than we did a couple years ago, but the housing supply levels return to normal. That's probably going to go more slowly than Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse launch. We just can't build fast enough to turn this around within, say, a year or two, especially when you add in all of the immigration, and due to underbuilding, the Northeast is suffering the most. That's something to keep in mind. And I recently talked to some homeless people in one of the worst off states, we can see here with 1.3 months of supply, Anchorage, Alaska. They are feeling the housing supply crash worse than almost anybody. And I took on, a little risk by going right to the middle of the largest homeless camp in the state, and I asked questions to vagrants one-on-one. And if you haven't seen it yet, you'll probably find it fascinating. Homeless in Alaska, you can watch that now right here.